What is going on, everybody? I am back today because I have now officially seen every Best Picture nominee for the Oscars. And I'm planning on doing a video that I'm going to rank every film that I've watched that has been nominated for an Academy Award. I thought it would be fun first to do a video where I rank all the Best Picture nominees. So there are 10 Best Picture nominees this year, and I've watched every single one of them. And there has been some incredible films nominated for Best Picture this year. And it was really hard for me to make this list, especially in the top 3, top 4 category, because they're just all at a very similar level. But for this specific video, a lot of my ranking is based on not only enjoyment, but the quality of the filmmaking and the execution of the filmmaking. And I'm really excited to rank these for you guys today. And some of them may or may not surprise you, depending on if you've watched my channel before. So without further ado, let's get into it right now. So coming in dead last in 10th place, my hottest take, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. If you do not know, and this is your first time watching my YouTube channel, I am not a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, and I was very excited to watch this movie. When I went into it, I heard a lot of positive things, but I felt like this was one of the most by-the-numbers, formulaic biopics that was edited like a music video. It was almost embarrassing. This is the type of quote-unquote art house filmmaking that doesn't feel like it's art house filmmaking. For starters, the aspect ratio shifts in this movie were irritating as all get out. It felt like a student film, how many times the aspect ratio changed, the switch from color to black and white. I didn't necessarily feel like there was an artistic intention to that, to where it added anything to the movie. Most of the scenes were these recycled moments of dialogue that just felt incredibly repetitive at a 3-hour mark, that you weren't really adding anything new to the story. You didn't learn anything about Oppenheimer's character that you couldn't pull from a Wikipedia article online. And honestly, by the end of the movie, the only question that the film really poses is, should man have the ability to create a weapon to destroy all of civilization? And I think we all know the answer to that question. And so do something interesting with the movie. Create something unique about Oppenheimer's character. Dive into him more. Learn how to write a female character, because in every Nolan movie, the women in the film add nothing to the movie other than they're the romantic interest of the lead character. That was also really irritating. And the musical manipulation just became so obnoxious. Like, every scene just had the loudest, most obnoxious, blaring score, to where Nolan is just afraid to let his dialogue do any of the work. And this movie just irritated the hell out of me. I'm not 100% sure why people think this is some sort of masterpiece. There are so many films about this time period that are marginally better than this movie. Coming in at number 9 is the film American Fiction. This is one of my biggest letdowns of the year. I love Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown, but I found this movie to be really hollow. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I think the concept is really interesting. This idea of black media being created about, lower income areas or people in gangs, films dealing with drug use or any of those sort of subject matter being just eaten up by the white community, and the film posing the question, is some of this material being made solely to appease white people? And I think the concept of that is really fascinating. The problem I have with this movie is that it kind of criticizes the emotional manipulation of that material, and this film is incredibly emotionally manipulative. There are so many elements of the characters that are introduced for short periods in time, because most of this is a comedy, to get some sort of dramatic pull out of you as an audience member. Sterling K. Brown's character is a gay man who had to divorce his wife, and his kids don't like him, but you don't really learn much more about him other than that. There's no more emotional push and pull other than a couple of conversations, and there's little things like that throughout the movie that are just thrown at you to be like, okay, we need you to feel something. And I just felt like the film was really lazy. By the end of it, I was like, you took this incredible concept that is super interesting and casted some incredibly talented actors and made a movie that is just really underwhelming. And I was really disappointed in this one because I expected it to be phenomenal. Coming in at number 8 is Maestro. This is a movie I know a lot of people really hated. I didn't mind it. I don't think it's perfect. I didn't know a whole lot about Leonard Bernstein's life before I watched this movie, and you don't learn a whole lot about him as a person, but what you do get is a story about the relationship between him and his wife, and it's a very simple focus in the movie, but I think it's executed relatively well. I thought the cinematography was nice. There were some editing moments that were a little baffling. I think Bradley Cooper does a pretty good job with his performance. Carey Mulligan was exceptional in her performance. I thought she was absolutely incredible. The shift from black and white to color was whatever. I wasn't 100% sure why that was a choice, but it was a choice. And some of the film is a little hollow, but I enjoyed my experience overall. And it's by no means the best film nominated for Academy Award. I was kind of surprised it was nominated for an Academy Award, but I enjoyed myself watching it. Coming in at number 7 is Killers of the Flower Moon. This is a movie I thought was absolutely incredible. It falls at this place on the list because I do think it's a little bloated, and in moments it can get a little bit repetitive, but I think the performances in this are exceptional. Lily Gladstone gave one of my favorite performances of the entire year. I think her performance is incredibly subdued, and there's a lot that she does through facial expressions and bodily movements that is really impressive. And I think overall the story Scorsese is telling here is incredibly important, and there aren't enough movies made about indigenous groups of people anymore, and this movie is just really powerful, and I was hooked to the screen for the entire 3-hour time period. Despite thinking that there were some moments that could be reworked or moved around, I still really had a lot of fun with this movie, and I think it's a really important movie that everyone needs to watch. Coming in at number 6 is Barbie. I feel like this movie has been a hot topic of conversation ever since the Oscars came out, and I thought this movie was a ton of fun. I thought Margot Robbie was incredible. I thought Ryan Gosling was amazing. The production design in this was incredible. The soundtrack was fantastic. And what I really liked about this movie, and I know there's a lot of criticisms about like, oh, Barbie's just a corporate movie trying to push a product. Have you watched a movie before? Because like virtually every movie you watch is pushing something and is trying to make money. There's no movie that's made with no intention to make any money whatsoever. But what I think is incredibly impressive about this film is that Greta Gerwig worked with a company and had to operate within the confines of the Mattel brand and was able to create a story about female empowerment. Works really well, and that I think can touch people and emotionally impact people from a super young age to a super old age. And I think so many people have tried to operate within the confines of these big organizations and have failed immensely. Look at Disney and like the amount of movies that have just flopped because people don't know how to operate within the confines of a bigger system. And I think what Greta Gerwig is able to accomplish here is amazing. And I loved this movie. I had so much fun watching it in the theater, and I'm looking forward to watching it again, honestly. Coming in at number 5 is Anatomy of a Fall. This movie is absolutely incredible. It's gut-wrenching. It's beautiful. Sandra Huller's performance is spectacular. I was not expecting it to turn into a courtroom drama, but I was on the edge of my seat from start to finish. The cinematography in this thing is absolutely incredible. The use of the score is fantastic. All of the actors in this movie, especially the actor that plays the young son, was incredible. The dog gives an absolutely brilliant performance, like actually has to act in this movie, which took me by surprise. I was not expecting that whatsoever, but just the entire film is immersive from the very first frame. And I think the questions it poses is really interesting. And more than anything, it's an examination of a relationship between a husband and wife where every person has their eyes on you and is judging you, but they don't know all the nuances of your relationship. And I think that's something that a lot of people who have been in relationships or who have gone through divorces or anything like that can relate to, where everyone else feels like they can judge your relationship, even if they don't understand all of the nuances of it. And there's a lot of beauty in this film. And I think it's a movie that you can get more out of with multiple rewatches, and it's a film that I've been thinking about since I watched it the first time. Coming in at number 4 is Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest. This could easily be number 1 on my list. It is just a very difficult watch because of how hard-hitting the subject matter is. This is an experimental art house film. If you do not like experimental art house films, you will not like this movie, but I think it is an incredibly important film, and I said this in my review. Glazer is saying something so important about how people can so easily turn a blind eye to horrible things happening around them in a day-to-day life. Obviously, this is focusing on the Holocaust, and it's looking at it through the lens of a Nazi family living outside of Auschwitz. And it's really powerful and moving, and the sound design in this is haunting. But I think in our current culture today, with things like what's going on in Gaza, or look at what's happening to the LGBTQ community in the United States of America, a lot of people who are in privileged groups can just turn their TV off or ignore what's going on in our culture in day-to-day life, and not everyone has that luxury, especially the people involved in these situations. And Glazer's movie is just such a powerful statement on those things. It's a film that had really moved me emotionally, and I'm already looking forward to rewatching it. Coming in at number 3 is The Holdovers. I don't often say instant classic when I talk about a movie. This is an instant classic. I can see myself watching this every year for the holidays. Paul Giamatti's performance is spectacular. Divine Joy Randolph should 100% win the Academy Award for this movie. One of my favorite performances of the entire year. I couldn't believe this was Dominic Sessa's first film. He was absolutely amazing in this. And I love taking these three people from very different backgrounds and bringing them together to support each other in a moment where they all need it. It's beautifully shot. The use of the score is incredible. It's emotionally moving. It's just one of the easiest, breeziest movies I've watched all year long that has some truly hard-hitting, dramatic moments. And it's just a movie that I don't feel like comes around very often anymore. I don't feel like movies like this get made enough. And it's a film I have not stopped recommending to people since I've watched, and it's a movie I cannot wait to see again. Coming in at number 2 is Celine Song's Past Lives. This is a movie that did not get enough Oscar nominations. This movie is absolutely incredible in every way. Greta Lee's performance in this movie is spectacular. I cannot believe she did not get an Academy Award nomination for it. The overall message of like lost love or like childhood love and then reconnecting with that person and feeling that spark and thinking that this could possibly work, but having life get in the way to where eventually you realize it's probably never going to work is just a heartbreaking idea. And I think it's executed in a way that everyone who watches this movie can relate to it. It is beautifully shot. One of the most beautifully shot movies of the entire year. The score is one of my favorites that came out of any movie from last year. Just really accompanies the film very well. And it's heartbreaking. I really was just mesmerized by this movie from start to finish. It is a movie I've been itching to rewatch since I saw it the first time. And I 100% would be okay if this won Best Picture. It is remarkable. And then coming in at number 1 is actually my favorite film of the entire year, and that is Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. Emma Stone's performance in this movie is the best of the year. She is transformative in this role. The level of change that her character has to go through from the first shot all the way to the end of the movie is absolutely incredible. I think the subject matter is really unique. It covers a wide array of topics, but I think at the center focus is the empowerment of women and women being perceived a very specific way by men, the over-sexualization of women by men, women being scrutinized for sexual empowerment and the enjoyment of sex, and then looking at the topic of science and pushing moral boundaries. And is it okay for science to push moral boundaries in order to discover things and to better society? And I think it's a very complex film that you're able as a viewer to unpack a lot of things, and Yorgos is always able to craft these worlds that are so remarkable. And I have not stopped thinking about this movie since I watched it the first time. It is one of the best films Yorgos Lanthimos has made in his career, and it is my favorite film nominated for Best Picture this year. So what is your favorite film nominated for Best Picture this year? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see a ranked list for you, or what movies you loved or what movies you hated. I'm really excited to see what movie takes it home at the Oscars this year. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.